There was a piglet running around everywhere, even wearing its own clothes and having its own toys. Two animals, from head to toe, are entirely useful, pigs and humans. Everyone thinks pigs are dirty and smelly, but that's not true. Pigs go to the bathroom in one specific spot and only sleep in clean places. They wallow in mud to cool down and avoid bugs, but humans lock them in cramped pens. Because they can't wallow in mud anymore, they roll around in their own manure and urine, becoming increasingly filthy and aggressive. The truly tragic part is that pigs are only able to see the ground because they can't lift their heads. The only way they can see the sky is when they fall over. It takes a fall to give them a chance to see a world we've never seen before. Pigs are like that, and humans are too. Right now, a woman is sitting behind the wheel of a truck, singing cheerfully. This woman is delivering feed to animals, including dogs, cows, horses, chickens, and ducks. Seeing that she's a woman with delicate hands, an older man comes out to help her carry the heavy bags, but he ends up falling down because the bag is too heavy. This woman lifts up 2 bags by herself, still overflowing with energy. She keeps delivering to each household, some people paying with money and others with food. After completing deliveries to all the homes, she returns to the store. A man walks into the store, and she hurriedly bends down to look in the mirror and add some lipstick. He carries a piglet with a red ribbon around its neck, looking adorable. However, he seems to be shy and awkward. It's clear they must like each other. Unexpectedly, he holds the piglet, kneels before her, and proposes. At that moment, the owner opens the door, and the piglet escapes from his hand and runs away. He chases after it. In my 21 years of life, I've never seen a proposal as comical as this. They just chase after the piglet. Finally, it runs into a house where people are eating, and they manage to catch it. As he carries the piglet out, he removes the red ribbon from its neck to retrieve his engagement ring. She accepts, making him cry tears of joy. He puts the ring on his future wife's finger, his hands shaking with emotion, witnessed and encouraged by everyone around. Touched by this adorable scene, someone steps forward to take a commemorative picture of the couple. After some time, they share the happy news of their pregnancy. They've even started researching baby names and have already prepared toys. For a girl, they've got a superhero, and for a boy, they have a doll. Since they don't know the gender yet, he has prepared everything. He's excited for his child to be born. But why does it take humans 10 months? Why can't it be done in 4 months like a pig? His younger brother bursts into laughter, dumbfounded. In reality, he's raising a herd of pigs. Right now, the husband and wife are eating, still as affectionate as ever. The older brother must truly love her. He often does things to make her laugh. While they are immersed in their loving embrace, an older gentleman arrives at their house, seeking a discussion with them. He mentions that there is an upcoming torch relay for the Olympics, and that this year, the Seoul Olympics torch relay will pass through Buga Road, right in front of their house. He wants to gather their neighbors to wave flags and banners to cheer on the runners. The wife is enthusiastic and wants to make the flags and banners herself. However, the husband worries for her because she is in the early stages of pregnancy. But the worrying part is that the torch relay organizers have come to see Ha-sik, the owner of the pig farm. They want him to demolish his farm for the relay, causing him to become extremely angry. Then, a man in a leather jacket appears and speaks in a rude way. He dares to say that the pig farm is smelly and filthy. Ha-sik almost loses his temper, but his wife comes out, softening him. But the group remains aggressive and attacks him. Suddenly, someone with a club emerges from a car and beats the man up. Then he comes over and gives Ha-sik a card and a cigarette, attempting to manipulate him psychologically. But this farm is a multi-generational inheritance from his grandfather and father. He plans to hand it down to his son, who will then pass it down to his grandchildren. Therefore, he refuses to sign the paper. He calmly leads his wife back into the house, his eyes fixed on the fat man, convinced of his ill intentions. That night, the fat man sent a group of people to burn down their farm in a brutal act of arson. The wife awoke to the sounds of shouts outside and discovered what had happened. Her husband, grieving for his pigs, wanted to charge out, but she stopped him. Later, someone found a cigarette discarded by the fat man, which they thought would be the sole piece of evidence to help the couple, but the fat had planned everything. Even the witnesses he had bribed refused to reveal the truth. The trial lacked enough evidence to convict the evil fat man. The only option left was for Ha-sik to plead with the witnesses for their help. After gathering enough evidence, he took it to the prosecutor. However, things were not as simple as he thought. As evening approached, Hasek was driving on the road when his car was blocked from both ends. The fat man murdered him by hanging him from a tree and then staged the scene. His wife waited for him at home, longing for his return. Suddenly, the phone rang. She received a notification, and upon seeing her husband's body, she was heartbroken, on the verge of madness. The next morning, she went to see the prosecutor, but unbeknownst to her, he was a greedy man who had taken money from the bad guys and committed corrupt acts. He was devoid of human morality. The wife was left to grieve and try to live on, carrying their child in her womb. She moved to a different place to live, a closed-down farm recommended by a friend, Bongu Farm in Doldum Village, Chu Township. Finally arriving at her destination, she began to clean up. Her pigs had given birth to 9 piglets. Pregnant and alone, she took care of her unborn child, carrying the burden day after day. The villagers were alarmed when they saw a truck carrying pigs passing by. Despite being alone and pregnant, she managed to take care of the entire farm. The villagers, following the trail of the newly arrived pigs, were initially startled upon learning that it was a pregnant woman. But they sympathized with her, and the villagers welcomed her warmly. However, because she was raising pigs, people in the village gossiped. A few wives got into a hair-pulling brawl and then went into labor. It was a hilarious scene. Everyone in the village helped her deliver. The newborn baby's cry brought joy to everyone in the village. She gave birth to a boy and named him Kang Ho, the name her husband had chosen for their son. Soon after, another mother went into labor and another baby was born. Was this fate or a twist of destiny? People say that fate is reserved for those we meet for the first time, while destiny is for those who stay with us till the end. The 2 babies were adorable. The children grew up and started going to school. At school, Kang Ho was teased by his friends because his family raised pigs. The 2 children protected each other. Back home, his mother disciplined him with a whip. She laid out a stethoscope, a money microphone, and a robot, but he chose a hammer. She wished for him to study hard and become a prosecutor so that no one would dare to look down on or bully him anymore. That was true power. He thought his mother's actions were wrong. Upon returning from school, the little girl saw a bruise on her mother's face, knowing it was from her father, and went to find him in a nightclub. She told her father that if he didn't want to share an anniversary with his grandmother, he should follow her. This little girl, Mi Ju, was born on the same day, in the same place as Kang Ho. Out of the 3 daughters, Mi Ju seemed to love her mother the most and possessed a strong personality. Time passed quickly, and the children grew up. Now, Mi Ju and Kang Ho are locked in a storage room with no way out. Night falls, and their mother has cooked a full meal, even baking a cake, to celebrate her son's birthday. The entire village searches for them at night. Mi Ju, with candy in her mouth, was swinging a hoop when she accidentally choked on the candy. Kang Ho panicked, tried to help her, and just then, the villagers found them. The scene was misconstrued. The next day was Kang Ho's university entrance exam. Mi Ju, his girlfriend, cheered him on. Just as he was about to enter the exam hall, Mi Ju was stabbed. Kang Ho, worried, took his girlfriend to the hospital and missed his chance to take the university exam. Back home, his mother was furious. She had been eagerly waiting for this day for so long, but he had missed it. She threatened to douse him with pig manure, splashed water on his face, and slapped him, but deep down, she was heartbroken. Eventually, he became a prosecutor. Now O is a prosecutor, and he's assigned to the case of the man who killed his father. The man, a wealthy CEO, unexpectedly asks Kang Ho if he wants to be his son. He tempts Kang Ho with luxurious things, but Kang Ho is still hesitant. The CEO then invites Kang Ho to play baseball, and Kang Ho whispers ominously, "It would be great to have a father I can rely on, like you." The CEO then adopts Kang Ho as his son, getting the benefits he desires. Meanwhile, Kang Ho arrives at work, ignoring his mother's numerous calls. Alone at home, she struggles to reach some boxes on a high shelf. They'd fall on her, causing her pain. She goes to her neighbor's house to ask for help with a pain reliever patch, but gets choked by the fumes. A masked woman puts a dog she's just adopted named Choi Kang Ho, the same name as the prosecutor's son. She says anyone with that name will succeed. Kang Ho is still at work, ignoring his girlfriend's calls. Mi Ju is now a manicurist. She accidentally injures a client, causing bleeding, and gets kicked. It was her fault, and she kneels down to apologize. However, the client, who is not at fault, kicks Mi-ju without apologizing. She's arrogant, so Mi-ju teaches her a lesson. Later, while drinking with her older sister at a restaurant, they discuss opening a small beauty salon. Her sister wants to invest with Mi-ju. Let's invest and rent a place in the outskirts. While they're eating, a call comes from Mi-ju's mother. But the caller is Mi-ju's daughter. Later, her mother also takes the call. Worried about losing face in front of the neighbors, she brags to everyone. The children in the neighborhood are all troubled and Samsik is in jail. Her mother goes to a fortune teller to ask when she can perform a ritual for her son's release from prison. The fortune teller says there's no ritual that can help him. No deity can save him. Even the maso is powerless. Today is Kang-ho's birthday. His mother travels to the city to see her son. Everyone admires her for having a successful son. However, they don't know the loneliness she endures as a mother. She doesn't know which court her son works at or the building number. Worse, Kang-ho doesn't come to greet her. He even lies and says he's not home. It's already evening and she hasn't eaten anything. She instructs the security guard to look after her. He feels sorry for her. She reassures herself that her son is busy. Kang-ho is at a bar meeting a woman. He then takes her away and rummages through her bag, finding something he believes to be illegal. The woman, Oh Ha-young, is the daughter of Oh Tae-soo, the former Chief Justice. After confirming the test results are negative, she leaves, slapping him. The next day, he goes to her place and returns the bag he'd slashed. However, he buys her a bag like those worn by middle-aged women and adds a red apple and a natural sedative. Gradually, they become lovers. They attend her father's birthday party as his future son-in-law. This man is the one who murdered Kang-ho's father. As he looks at Kang-ho, there's something scary in his eyes. But he pretends he never knew the past, acting familiar with Kang-ho. After Ha-young and her mother leave, he reveals his true nature. He pours Kang-ho a full glass of wine and speaks ominously. He says he's been suspicious of Kang-ho since their first encounter. He says there's a stench of mud because Kang-ho climbed up from that. He grabs Kang-ho's neck and forces him to break up with his daughter because Ha-young will marry into the dosing group as planned. He's an ambitious prosecutor. Kang-ho does this to carry out his own plan. Suddenly, he wants to become the adopted son of the fat man. As the son of the chairman, Kang-ho is now set to marry the daughter of Congressman Oh Tae-soo. He has become an ambitious prosecutor, manipulated and controlled by the chairman. He accepts being the chairman's legal son because he now holds many cards against both the chairman and Oh Tae-soo. Driven by ambition, Kang-ho has become a bad person. The next day, Mi-ju and her sister finally open their own beauty salon. They are overcome with emotion, hugging and crying. At home, Mi-ju has twins. In the village, people are talking about Kang-ho. Everyone is doing their own thing, but there's a lively atmosphere. Samsik's mother is upset because her son was arrested for robbery and she asked Kang-ho for help, but he refused, so she still holds a grudge. Kang-ho brings his girlfriend home to meet his mother. His mother is putting on makeup to prepare for the meeting with her future daughter-in-law. She has prepared a dazzling necklace to give to her son. However, her outfit is a bit awkward, like a banana. But her neighbors don't offer any advice, and she thinks she looks beautiful. Finally, Kang-ho and his fiancée arrive home. They don't seem as excited as the villagers, and they even look down on everyone. It's noticeable that the tag is still on her outfit. His mother takes her son inside and presents her future daughter-in-law with a diamond box. Han-yeon's expression turns unpleasant, so Kang-ho tells her to go outside. The villagers peek into the car, as if they've never seen designer goods before. Kang-ho gives his mother an adoption contract and asks her to sign it, effectively giving away his claim to her. She's the one who raised him all these years, but because of his ambition, he's become the adopted son of a wealthy chairman. She's confused and heartbroken. Kang-ho says, "Just do it," and she goes to find a stamp. She does it all for her son. After she signs, he takes back the contract. He even throws away the bag of food she brought him, even as she tries to hold him back. Seeing that Kang-ho is tired, his girlfriend offers to drive. She stops to get a scarf that flew out of the car, leaving Kang-ho alone in the vehicle. A truck speeds towards him, crashing into the car, which plunges down a cliff. Kang rushed to the hospital after the accident. His mother's heart ached as she looked at her son in the hospital bed. She wailed in despair. The surgery stopped the bleeding, But Kang-ho's brain had swollen not only in the surgery area, but throughout. His spine was broken, damaging his spinal cord. Even if he regained consciousness, he wouldn't be able to live normally immediately. Meanwhile, the chairman was at the baseball field when he received news of Kang-ho's accident. He immediately went to the hospital. He investigated the truck driver, but couldn't find him, leading him to suspect that Oh Ta-soo was responsible for the accident. He was right. Oh Ta-soo and his daughter had planned it. Ha-yeon had put sleeping pills in Kang-ho's water bottle. But Ha-yeon's eyes betrayed a hatred for her father. Ji-soo had just opened her beauty salon and business was booming. Appointments were fully booked. While working, a man in a hat watched her from outside. His mother was at the hospital, waiting for Kang-ho to wake up. She suddenly remembered and tried calling Ha-yeon, but couldn't get through. In the evening, after closing her salon, Mi-ju was walking home when her twins called her. She even taught them English. Suddenly, someone stood behind her and the children saw him too. Mi-ju turned around, but the man disappeared behind the wall. She hung up the phone and ran away, but the man caught up to her. She grabbed a ceramic bottle and smashed it against him. When he took off his hat, Mi-ju realized it was Bang Sam-sik, a neighbor who'd just gotten out of jail. Mi-ju took him back to her place, even making him wear a dress. It was hilarious. He sat there flirting with Mi-ju because he'd liked her since high school. He stayed overnight and went home the next morning. He had a ring to give his mother, even though he had just gotten out of prison. He was just about to eat when he was arrested again for stealing. This was a story from the past. Today, his parents were at the prison gate to welcome their son home. But they found out he had been released 3 weeks earlier. Before leaving prison, he stole all the soap and toothpaste. The parents were helpless. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Kang-ho's mother was talking to herself, making everyone in the room uneasy. They'd all looked at her. When everyone learned that her son was the top graduate of the Seoul's Central Prosecutor's Office, many people came to ask for help. After a few months, Kang-ho woke up. He didn't recognize anyone. He was like a 7-year-old child, losing cognitive abilities in many areas. In the evening, his mother took him home. A car suddenly pulled up, with 2 people following them. The next morning, when he woke up, his mother showed him pictures and explained their meanings. She tried to feed him, but he refused. She felt like she was being punished. She had once said that she'd rather her son die than live like that, seeing others in similar situations. But now, she realizes she was wrong. She's so grateful that he's still alive after the accident. Kang-ho is her precious child. She didn't want anyone to know, but the villagers couldn't keep the secret. They spread the news to everyone, even the children. It's evening. The mother stands before Kang-ho's photo, muttering to herself. Kang-ho is asleep. Over the next few days, she takes care of him, tending to the pigs, then goes to the temple to pray. Kang-ho never wants to eat. When they manage to put food in his mouth, he spits it out. That night, the village chief brings mulberry leaf medicine for her. It's very good for paralysis. He also buys her books and tapes. His kindness touches her. Suddenly, she starts looking for Kang-ho's things from when he was little, when he was just learning to walk. She remembers those days and is so happy. She takes out all the toys he loved as a child, and Kang-ho faints. When he wakes up, she tries to feed him, but he refuses. She's frustrated and angry. He mumbles that if he eats, he'll get sleepy and won't be able to study. That's who would scold him when he was younger. That's why Kang-ho has refused to eat for so long. Both mother and son start crying. Finally, he agrees to eat. Meanwhile, Chairman Song finds the truck driver who caused the accident. He's committed suicide. It's all Oh Ta-soo's doing. He's turned Kang-ho into a fool, then killed the only witness and staged a suicide. His daughter, seeing the scarf that day, is haunted by it. She's like a crazy person. It's getting dark. Kang-ho is staring at the toys hanging from the ceiling. His mother takes down a Superman figure so he can look at it without straining his eyes. Memories of his childhood suddenly flood back, and he starts moving his hand. His mother is amazed. Early in the morning, Mi-ju goes to work and finds people standing in front of her shop, saying harsh and unsettling things. She realizes that her colleague has tricked her. Suddenly, that day, Kang-ho's mother doesn't feed him. She wants him to learn to do things for himself. Every day, she tries different methods and medicines to help her son. Finally, Kang-ho picks up a spoon and chopsticks to eat. She's overjoyed, feeling that her months of hard work have paid off. Kang-ho gradually getting better. The 2 children push his wheelchair, causing him to fall head over heels. In the evening, Kang Ho is practicing using chopsticks to pick up beans. When he sees his mother, he shoves the entire bowl of food into his mouth. His mother smiles. She then sits down and teaches him everything again so he understands. Meanwhile, Mi-ju goes to see her former colleague's mother and discovers that she's in love with a gambler who is deeply in debt. She gives him all her money, leaving Mi-ju helpless. They can only hug and cry. Looking at a fish, Mi-ju remembers when she was with Kang Ho. Later, she's at a restaurant when she sees Kang Ho working as a waiter. She's shocked and slaps him. Then she embraces him and cries like a child. The people around her are astonished. Kang Ho is completely recovered and is now working as a poet. The warmth he receives from Mi-ju inspires him to try even harder. They get back together and are in love. They study together and eat together. Kang Ho's hard work pays off and he achieves good results. Finally, he's achieved success. Mi-ju and Kang Ho are happier than ever. After those memories, Mi-ju swallows a bitter pill. At home, Kang Ho is being taken to the hospital for rehabilitation. His mother watches nervously. After his training, he can't find his mother and is scared. He goes searching for her. Meanwhile, the evil prosecutor is being interviewed for a program when he is visited by Chairman Song's men. His smile fades. They show him a video, the only evidence to accuse him of his evil deeds. He realizes that the chairman knows he's the son of the man he killed years ago. He doesn't care why Kang Ho approached him, whether it was ambition or revenge. He's willing to use Kang Ho's abilities and then discard him. Back at Kang Ho's house, the village chief has been sitting there for an hour, but he still hasn't been able to give Kang Ho acupuncture. Every time he tries to insert the needles, his hands tremble, he gasps for breath, and he pulls back. The next morning, Kang Ho's mother goes to the city for work. She asks the neighbors to look after Kang Ho and her pigs. As she prepares to leave, Kang Ho wants to go with her, but she goes alone because there's a lot of dust as people are moving houses. Kang Ho sits at home, anxiously waiting for his mother to return. He's too nervous to sleep. The two children invite him to play, but he refuses. Eventually, they force him to go with them, even though he doesn't want to. Kang Ho's mother reaches his apartment in the city. He rents the place, but the real estate agent said the lease has expired, so she's come to get some of his belongings. She sees his shoes outside the door and hugs them. She's about to leave when she sees someone holding a sign accusing Kang Ho of being her son. She rushes out and tears down the sign. She's furious and says that her son knows everything but still takes bribes from the wealthy and turns her son into a murderer. She says that her son pleaded for him, but he didn't care and caused him to faint. Two women start fighting. Kang Ho's mother heads home. Kang Ho is still playing with the two children. He throws the ball too far and gets scared. He pushes his wheelchair down, falling to the ground. The children run home to tell their father, leaving Kang Ho alone. Kang Ho's mother is on her way home when she's in a car accident. Luckily, she's fine, but the man demands 50 million won in compensation. He'll settle the matter if she pays. Back at home, the neighbors are trying to undress Kang Ho for a bath, but are too afraid to completely remove his clothes. Just then, Kang Ho's mother returns. He's happy and rushes out to greet her, but she doesn't seem happy. She's thinking about the bad things her son has done. She scolds him angrily, but he doesn't understand. She cries and blames herself. She then her son tightly. It's getting dark. She takes him to see the pigs in their pen. Everyone thinks pigs are dirty and smelly, but actually they use the bathroom in a specific spot and only sleep in clean places. They wallow in mud to cool down and avoid bugs. But because humans lock them in cramped pens, they can't bathe in the mud anymore, so they roll around in their own manure and urine. They become increasingly dirty and aggressive. Kang Ho feels sorry for them. But the truly tragic part is that pigs can only see the ground because they can't lift their heads. The only way they can see the sky is when they fall over. It takes a fall to give them a chance to see a world we've never seen before. Pigs are like that, and humans are too. Kang Ho and his mother have fallen, and they've seen a new world, a world they've never seen before. But it's also a precious world that they must see. Kang Ho smiles. The next day, Mi-ju is busy with work, but she's not at ease. The debt collectors keep harassing her. They come looking for her, making a commotion. At home, Kang Ho's mother is feeding the pigs and tells him to stay inside and watch TV. He's not allowed to go outside, but he sneaks out. He wanders around the village, searching for the baseball he lost the previous day. His mother has to search everywhere for him, calling his name, but he doesn't answer. It's getting dark. He goes into the forest, falls over, and looks up. He finds the ball and brings it to the two children. He bumps into Miju. Mij fled to her hometown, seeking refuge from the pressure to grow vegetables and raise fish. As soon as she arrived, her two children ran to hug her. After months of separation, she met Kang-ho again. Memories flooded back, especially those from their birthdays. Kang-ho playing the piano and singing for her, watching movies together, eating, bathing, and sleeping together. Until the day Kang-ho left, Miju left too. His mother had found him and brought him home. Suddenly, upon seeing Miju, his heart ached. She had just learned about his condition and was shocked. She refused to let her children play with Kang-ho. The next morning, before she could remind Kang-ho not to go anywhere because he had a rehabilitation session at the hospital, he was already on his way to Miju's house. He called for the children, but they weren't there. He kicked a ball inside the house and went home. While walking, he saw Miju and smiled, sneaking glances at her. The composer, who lives in the same village, was working at home when he saw rain clouds gathering, darkening the sky. But he smelled manure, so he went to Kang-ho's farm and threatened to sue them. Kang-ho's mother apologized and offered to compensate him, but he refused and even threatened to report them to the police. Meanwhile, Kang-ho's mother was taking him to the hospital for his treatment. Suddenly, Kang-ho wanted to raise a dog, like the village chief's wife. He wanted to be able to carry it around. But his mother refused, because he has a stuffy nose and no one could take care of a dog. They arrived at the hospital. She decided to get a checkup for herself too. She saw a prosecutor on TV doing a charity program and felt a sense of goodwill towards him. However, she had no idea that he was the man who had murdered her husband and caused her son's condition. Haehyun was drunk and recalled how her father had fabricated a story and shown her a video of Kang-ho involved in a murder. Chairman Som was still searching for evidence to bring down prosecutor Oh Tae-soo. The next day, Kang-ho was at home trying to convince his mother to buy him a dog. He suddenly mentioned Miju, leading his mother to think he had recovered a little bit of his memory. His mother still thought Miju had gone to America to marry and have children, unaware that none of it was true. She left to bring some things to a neighbor. Seeing that his mother was gone, he went outside to hug the golden puppy, but it ran away. A foreigner who came out of the house gave Kang-ho a piglet to chase the dog. He was carrying the piglet when he met the children, but the piglet ran away. The children chased after it breathlessly, so Kang-ho put them on his wheelchair and they chased after the piglet. Finally, it was Miju who caught the piglet. Just as Kang-ho's mother arrived, she learned that Miju was back home. Kang-ho returned home and was scolded by his mother. She worried that the piglet would get sick and spread it to the rest of the herd. It had been running all out of the village, carrying unknown diseases. It had been born without its mother and was the smallest in the litter, so it was always bullied by the others. The poor little piglet had to suckle from other mothers. Suddenly, Kang-ho wanted to raise it, to feed it, bathe it, and sleep with it. His mother was surprised. The neighbor who had gone to the police station to complain about the smell from the livestock farm came over to extort money again. He demanded that she pay him 1 billion won every year. He grabbed her by the collar. Kang-ho saw this and ran over, bumping into the man. It's already evening. They're all at the police station. The man is insisting that he's been wronged. Kang-ho suddenly remembers criminal law and points it out to the man, who is so embarrassed that he has nowhere to go. Meanwhile, Samsik is working as a waiter in a casino when he spots the man who put him in jail. He punches the man repeatedly until he has to be hospitalized. His parents are watching the news at home. Oh Tae-soo is still causing trouble for Kang-ho. It seems he's planning to kill him. Kang-ho and his mother are on their way home. She wonders why he remembered traffic laws. She can't stop thinking about it. When they get home, she tells Kang-ho to go inside and says she's going to the neighbor's house. She goes there and asks for a pill. The village chief's wife scares her to death. She always wears a strange mask that looks quite unnerving, but everyone in the village is used to it. While she's at the neighbor's house, a man in black clothes on a motorbike pulls up to Kang-ho's house. He's up to something shady. Kang-ho is cleaning up the pig manure that's all over the house. The man in black enters the house with a knife. Hearing the sound, Kang-ho thinks it's his mother. The man in black, wearing a helmet, sprays pepper spray, trying to attack Kang-ho. Suddenly, Two people emerged from the cupboard to protect him, the two sneaking into Kang Ho's house while he and his mother were out. They searched everywhere in the house. When they saw Kang Ho and his mother coming, they quickly hid in the closet. Kang Ho was shocked to see all the pig manure on the floor. He rushed to clean it up, worried that if his mother saw it, she wouldn't let him keep the piglet. The two men hugged each other and stayed hidden in the closet. The man with the knife tried to attack Kang Ho, but the two people from the closet rushed out and chased him. He ran on his motorbike, but they couldn't escape. The man in black was Otasu's man. He had tried to kill Kang Ho, but he failed. Kang Ho's mother returned home. She heard her son's story about the pig manure, but didn't believe him. She thought the piglet was responsible for the mess. Later, Chairman Song's two men returned and reported to him that they were unsuccessful in their search for evidence. He was furious. He threw a bowl of soup at their heads and smashed a plate, aiming to stab one of them with a fork. But the man screamed, "We will find it." The chairman stopped. He told them they had to protect Kang Ho. Sam-sik was on a boat when a group of people came to harass him. It was his former boss. He was upset about the previous incident and demanded 100 million won from Sam-sik. But Sam-sik had just gotten out of jail, so where would he get that kind of money? At Kang Ho's house, it's evening. His mother can't sleep. The next morning, a neighbor visits the village chief. He sees the chief's wife wearing her strange mask and is startled. The village chief, who is coming out of the bathroom with a head full of shampoo foam, gives the neighbor his business card. He realizes it's an old elementary school friend and warmly welcomes him. He invites him inside. At Kang Ho's house, Kang Ho is watching TV. His mother turns it off. She knows she went to the market today, but didn't ask him to come along. She's surprised. Meanwhile, Meiju is suddenly supported by her mother, who gives her some money to open a nail salon. Meiju is overjoyed. After his mother goes to the market, Kang Ho leaves home to play with the two children. He accidentally bumps into Meiju, who drops her wallet. She rushes onto a bus. Kang Ho picks up the wallet and chases after her, but he's too slow. He flags down a taxi. Meiju has gone to a real estate agent to rent a space for her nail salon in her hometown. But the prices are too high, so she decides to open a salon within a salon to save money. She walks around the market, looking for a place but can't find one. Kang Ho finds her but loses track of her. He searches everywhere for her. Meiju is helping an elderly woman trim her nails and chatting with her. Luckily, she's well received and people are eager to help her open a nail salon in their area. Kang Ho is still searching for Meiju in the market to return her wallet. Suddenly, a thief grabs his wallet and runs away. Kang Ho throws an apple at his head, drops the wallet, and runs away. Suddenly, Kang Ho's memories come back to him and he sees his mother and Meiju. He's sitting in a car with his mother, smiling. She's worried and scolds him. When they get home, his mother apologizes to Meiju for being too harsh to her in the past. The villagers are excited to meet an old elementary school friend. They hug each other and sing together. The man's goal is to get everyone together to criticize and dismantle Kang Ho's happy farm. At first, people were against it, but after a while, everyone was manipulated and they all agreed. Kang Ho and his mother were delivering items to different houses when they heard the villagers talking outside. She felt sad. Suddenly, she received a call. She had to go back to the farm because the pig was about to give birth. She gave Kang Ho the task of delivering the items to the rest of the houses and then going back to feed the lion, the piglet Kang Ho had begged his mother to keep. He had to eat and exercise by himself because his mother wouldn't be home until tomorrow. It was getting dark. Sam-sik came back to the village and saw Kang Ho sitting by the stream, fishing. He remembered the past. Kang Ho had treated him like a friend and looked down on him after becoming a prosecutor. He hadn't helped with Sam-sik's robbery case, which led to him going to jail, so now Sam-sik hated Kang Ho. He grabbed Kang Ho's neck and called him a dog. He didn't know Kang Ho was like a 7-year-old child. Hearing the word dog, Kang Ho remembered the two children and went to complain to them. What? Who dared to talk rudely to my friend? Later, Meiju went outside and learned that Kang Ho's mother wasn't home. It was almost dinner time, so the two children pushed Kang Ho to her house to eat. Kang Ho was eating dinner at Meiju's house. The two children seemed like his father and mother. Suddenly, Meiju chased the children away and told Kang Ho not to appear in front of her again. The village chief went home and saw the pile of medicine Kang Ho's mother had left on the table. He and his wife were touched. The masked woman always spoke the truth, but her words were full of mystery. Even her closest neighbors were about to betray her. At Kang Ho's house, 2 men broke in. Kang Ho's mother was still at the farm, watching over the pig about to give birth. As she went outside, she saw 2 men lurking near the farm, but they said they were just asking for some manure to use in their fields. She didn't suspect anything. Suddenly, her stomach started hurting. The 2 men took her to the hospital. Kang Ho was sleeping when he woke up suddenly and searched the house for his mother. The next morning, she woke up and went to see the chief doctor. She discovered she had stage 4 stomach cancer. She was heartbroken and begged the doctor to operate on her. She looked distraught. Suddenly, Kang Ho came in and ran his wheelchair into a wall, falling face first to the ground. But she didn't pick him up. After about her stage 4 cancer, Kang Ho's mother was very sad. The 2 men who had been lurking around Kang Ho's house had overstepped their bounds the previous day, so they came to buy the neighbor's land, which surprised him. Money fell from the sky, literally. Samsik woke up and saw the 2 strangers. His mother was afraid he would steal money, so she quickly hid it. But his father's loud voice and the obvious expressions on everyone's faces revealed the truth to him. Suddenly, a group of people appeared to collect a debt, and they took Samsik away immediately. Kang Ho's mother was listless after learning about her illness. She dropped a plate, plugged in the rice cooker, but forgot to press the button. Seeing his mother like this, Kang Ho was sad. He went outside, but the 2 children wouldn't play with him anymore. But they spoke to him warmly. Kang Ho confided in them about his mother. He saw that she was dejected and didn't laugh or talk much. Suddenly, Kang Ho's mother appeared, laughing and talking cheerfully. The 3 of them were confused. She took Kang Ho to the market. When they saw a dog that looked like the village chief's wife's dog, Kang Ho ran after it, but it wasn't the same dog. His mother looked around and couldn't find him, so she had to go find him. Meanwhile, the 2 boys were teasing Kang Ho. His mother saw them and kicked them with a boot, so they ran away in fear. When they got home, she taught Kang Ho how to swear when someone bullies him. Then she handed him all her savings and property documents. Suddenly, he remembered something which made her happy. She then took her son to the farm and gave him a lot of instructions. She told him that he should check the pigs twice a day, in the morning and evening. When he was hungry, he shouldn't eat right away, but he should go to the farm first to check if the pigs have eaten. If the pig troughs are too wet or have frost, the food will clump together. He should pat the pigs like she did when that happened. He must always keep everything clean and sterile, so the pigs don't get sick. He should make sure the farm is a happy place for the pigs. She was afraid she wouldn't live much longer, so she was teaching Kang Ho everything from A to Z, from the farm to the vegetable garden. She told him that if the humidity is over 60%, it means it's too humid. She also taught him how to call a veterinarian to inject the pigs with medicine. If they don't come because of a contagious disease outbreak, he has to buy the medicine himself and inject the pigs, otherwise the whole herd will get sick. She taught him all day. It was getting dark. Samsik was being beaten up by debt collectors. Mi-ju called him and lied, saying she was going fishing. But he found out. She was on the 2nd floor, looking down. Later, they sat down and talked. He said that he had become an idiot, which made Mi-ju very angry. She arrived home and saw her son crying. She ran over and held him. He was crying because he didn't want to take a bath in a public bathroom with women. He wanted to bathe with his father in a men's bath like the other kids. Mi-ju didn't know what to do. The next morning, Kang Ho's mother's condition worsened. She was in a lot of pain. She vomited after taking her medicine. The 2 men were still lurking outside Kang Ho's house. Suddenly, Samsik called them and invited them to drink rice wine. While they were taking Kang Ho to the farm, they saw banners hanging on the street. The banners said, "Demolish Happy Farm, it's too smelly, we can't stand it anymore." It was all the man in the red scarf's doing. He had always wanted to tear down her farm so he could get inspiration for his music. He had convinced everyone in the village to get rid of the farm. Everyone agreed but didn't show up. His arrogant and ridiculous speech angered her. Suddenly, another problem arose, causing the villagers to worry. The pigs and cows were at risk of foot and mouth disease. The outbreak started at Mr. Kim's goat farm. According to regulations, all pigs and cows within a 3-kilometer radius of the outbreak must be culled, regardless of the reason. This meant Kang Ho's pigs, even though they weren't sick, had to be killed. Kang Ho's mother was devastated and had no energy to fight. Watching her pigs being buried broke her heart. The village was sympathetic. The two men who had been spying on Kang Ho's house were drinking rice wine with Sam Sik when they heard the news. That evening, they sneaked into Sam Sik's house, searching everywhere. Finally, they found a USB drive containing data about their boss, the chairman. The evil prosecutor, Otasu, was still eating and drinking happily. Han-young was always by his side. Kang Ho and his mother sat dejected and sad. The next morning, Mi-ju was at her nail salon when she heard people gossiping about Kang Ho's family. The pesticide dealer suddenly said that Kang Ho's mother had come to buy pesticide that morning. Mi-ju immediately ran home. Kang Ho's mother had taken Kang Ho to her husband's grave. She was holding a bag of pesticide, intending to commit suicide. Kang Ho thought she was taking him on a field trip. He remembered that she'd never taken him on a field trip before. She always made him study. It was because her parents had died on a field trip, taking Kwon with them. She was about to drink the pesticide when Kang Ho snatched it away. Mi-ju had just arrived at Kang Ho's house and called out to him. Sam Sik was also there. They both came back and saw the pesticide in Kang Ho's mother's hand. Mi-ju snatched it away and threw it away. She asked Kang Ho to go to the sauna with the son tomorrow. The next morning, while Kang Ho was in the sauna with the children, his mother went to see a lawyer to leave her inheritance to her son after she died. Kang Ho was in the sauna room when he saw Otasu on TV. He muttered that the man looked suspicious and had a fishy smell. After the sauna, Kang Ho's mother picked him up and took him to the hospital for treatment. Kang Ho would live there from now on. Knowing his mother wouldn't live much longer, he cried and begged her. Both mother and son were heartbroken. When she went home, Kang Ho followed her. He pushed his wheelchair so hard that his hands bled. When he arrived home, he saw his mother hanging herself, and his legs stood up. Seeing her about to hang herself, the boy was furious with her and left, running out into the heavy rain. Mi-ju happened to be walking by, and he broke down crying like a child. She took him to shelter from the rain and painted his nails yellow. He was still angry with his mother for her impulsive suicide attempt. After returning home, they eventually made up. Seeing that his son was unable to stand, his mother took him out to the pond and pushed him in despite the heavy rain. She wanted him to regain his strength on his own. Every day, she would throw him into the lake and then bring him back to the rehabilitation center. Finally, he started to make progress, taking his first tentative steps like a baby learning to walk. Overwhelmed with emotion, she embraced him and wept. The villagers, feeling ashamed for their previous behavior, decided to buy Kang Ho a motorized wheelchair as a gift. Sam Sik, meanwhile, was trying to get a loan from the bank, but was rejected everywhere. He then went to buy insecticide to commit suicide, but his mother told him where to find it. Mi-ju was working at a nail salon when a customer came in to buy insecticide. He noticed Mi-ju and gave her a bottle of soda. Mi-ju's good luck brought more customers to the shop. Suddenly, her children called, telling her their father was home. She was confused and immediately took a taxi back. This man wasn't actually their father, he just wanted money from Mi-ju. Everyone was upset and the children refused to go to school. The villagers had already purchased a new wheelchair for Kang Ho, and everyone was happy and excited about it. The two men who had been stalking them were waiting at Kang Ho's house, but they ran into Sam Sik and couldn't escape. Everyone was surprised when they arrived at Kang Ho's house to see him walking. Even the heavens were moved by the mother's tireless efforts. Everyone celebrated Kang Ho's recovery, including the two stalkers who now seemed to be part of the village. Mi-ju watched Kang Ho play with the children and felt saddened. During the meal, Kang Ho noticed something strange about the two men and watched their every move. It was getting late and Mi-ju hadn't returned. The children were playing happily with Kang Ho. On the way home, the boy said, "Let's let Kang Ho be our dad." Mi-ju and her daughter disagreed. Sam Sik suddenly appeared and proposed to Mi-ju, making her flustered. She ran inside. The next morning, Kang Ho's mother went to the security guard at the place where Kang Ho used to live. The guard gave her a letter Kang Ho had asked him to give to his mother a long time ago. She brought it back to Kang Ho, but he didn't remember it. His mother decided to find a strong connection to Oh Tae-soo. After all, her son had been engaged to his daughter. However, she was informed that they were unreachable. Han-young was trying on wedding dresses. In 2 days, Oh Tae-soo would become a son-in-law of the Dosen group. The chairman's son's apprentice came to report to him that he had finally found the clue, but the chairman was furious and almost hit him. The apprentice showed him pictures of Kang Ho walking. The chairman grinned with excitement. Kang Ho's mother started teaching him to walk again. The next morning, as she was leaving the house, the children ran up to her. Kang Ho was going to town. Before leaving, he kissed the little girl's hand. Kang Ho and his mother went to take some pictures. That night, she taught him the etiquette for offering sacrifices to the deceased. Then, they hugged each other and applied face masks together. Suddenly, she noticed something in a picture and jumped up. She took out a memory card from behind the family photo. The next, the villagers were gathered together making kimchi. Suddenly, the two children were scrolling through social media and saw a picture of Kang Ho's former fiancé now getting married. Everyone who saw her thought she was a terrible person. Meanwhile, Kang Ho and his mother were using a laptop to look at the data on the memory card she had found the night before. They couldn't remember the password. Then, Kang Ho found a piece of paper with the password written on it. When they opened the data, it was Kang Ho's journal entries. It started with his acceptance into law school, where he had been top of his class. The professor had asked him why he had chosen law school, and Kang Ho had said, "Korea is a rule of law country that protects freedom and democracy. The purpose of law is to provide public welfare, create happiness and benefit for the majority of society, and ensure fairness for all." He said he had come to understand those things, though he still didn't know why he had chosen law. He then wrote about an argument he'd had with someone over grades, resulting in him being sued. His mother had been worried that this would affect his academic performance, so she forced him to apologize to the other person. Kang Ho wrote about the times he was looked down upon when he first started law school. He wrote about how, after those experiences, he listened to his mother and worked hard to become a prosecutor. He also wrote about his relationship with Mi-ju. In his dark and stormy life, Mi-ju was a ray of warmth. He wrote about the Junving Ballet Gala at the Judicial Research and Training Institute. He was deliberately trying to get close to the daughter of Chief Prosecutor Oh Tae-soo. Oh Tae-soo had been the lead prosecutor on his father's case 28 years ago. He had since become the chief prosecutor of the Seoul High Prosecutor's Office. Kang Ho started looking into the people who had been involved in his father's case and learned a lot about them. One man, Kwak Sang-cheol, was a firefighter who was close to his father. He would often go to the farm to check on the fire safety equipment. But during the trial, he gave confusing testimony, saying that his father's farm had electrical problems. Kang Ho had been deliberately pushing away his loved ones as he tried to get closer to the people who had harmed his family. He even broke up with his mother and became a different person. He investigated his father's case and found out everything. After leaving Mi-ju, whom he loved dearly, he was heartbroken. The things people thought were the actions of an ambitious prosecutor who took bribes from the wealthy were actually all part of his plan. He had everything planned out, including the murder of his mother and the other woman. She had warned him about his mother and everyone around him, saying that they could all be in danger. He deliberately avoided his mother when she brought him food. He felt guilty after she left. He then recognized Chaemin Song as his father and his legal heir. The mother and child he had supposedly killed were actually alive. He had sent them to live in the Philippines. When he took Ha-yeon to meet his family, he slipped the memory card into the family photo while his mother was pouring water. Kang Ho couldn't fight them with just his father's case because the statute of limitations had long passed. But his father's case never really mattered to him. What Kang Ho really wanted revenge for was the way they had completely destroyed his mother's life and the pain she had to endure, pretending to be a bad mother to her beloved son. After reading the journal, his mother was crying so hard her eyes were swollen. She told him to stop doing what he was doing, ran into the storage room, and found something. She hugged her son and cried. Samsik was in the kitchen and accidentally spilled some medicine on the floor. He bent down to pick it up and saw a designer handbag under the table. He took it and went to sell it. At Kang Ho's house, his mother was afraid that he would be in danger if he kept those things. She feared he would end up like his father, so she burned them. As she ran back into the house, Kang Ho quickly grabbed something and shoved it into his pocket. Watching all of belongings burning, Kang Ho's mother suddenly saw two of Song Woo-byuk's men appear. They punched Kang Ho, knocking him to the ground. The heavyset man got out of his car, leaning on his cane. Kang Ho's mother cried and begged him. Suddenly, Kang Ho stood up and said, "Let me tell you what happened." It was all a nightmare his mother had been having. She woke up with a start and rushed to Kang Ho's room, relieved to see him still sleeping. The next morning, his mother went to the hospital for a checkup. Her illness had worsened. The doctor advised her to be hospitalized, but she refused, saying she still had something to do. Meanwhile, Kang-ho was showing his prosecutor's badge to his pig. He was brushing his hair when his mother returned, telling him the good news that he would be receiving new pigs at the farm next week. Kang-ho was very happy to hear this. He felt strange. Everyone wanted him to get better so he could be a prosecutor, but his mother didn't. Samsik, meanwhile, had taken his mother's designer bag and hidden it under a mattress, then went to sell it to pay off his debt. The loan shark kept calling him and threatening him. Two of Woo Byok's men sneaked into Kang-ho's warehouse to look for more evidence. They had snuck in the previous night, but Kang-ho had locked the door and they couldn't get out. They tried to dig a hole to escape, but Kang-ho blocked it with a large rock. Everyone was at the village headman's house for a meal. Later, Kang-ho's mother went over and asked the headman to arrange a blind date for her son with the daughter of a fruit orchard owner. Everyone was confused, but then they were happy to start looking for a wife for Kang-ho. The next morning, Kang-ho's mother blow-dried and styled his hair, then took him to the blind date. The women in the neighborhood helped by brushing his hair and putting on makeup for him. They even picked out an outfit for him. He was wearing a suit and stylish glasses, looking very handsome and intellectual. Everyone was surprised. The headman then came to take Kang-ho to the blind date. Everyone arrived at a cafe, but one after another, no one accepted him because they saw him as being foolish. After they all left, Kang-ho ran over to Mi-ju's shop to show off his handsome appearance. She was being harassed by an old man, so she broke his hand. He started making a scene and threatened to hit her, but Kang-ho ran over to protect her. A motorcycle sped towards them, bringing back memories of the past. He was afraid Mi-ju would be hit, so he hugged her and then kissed her. His mother saw them from afar but quickly turned away. Kang-ho returned home, and his mother noticed he had an injury. She said something to him that surprised her. It was getting dark, and Mi-ju seemed to still have feelings for Kang-ho. She was sitting alone, drinking beer and eating seaweed. He passed by, putting a bag over his head. He greeted her and then walked away. A few seconds later, he turned back, walked up to Mi-ju, picked up the seaweed she had dropped, and said he liked her. She was flustered but secretly happy. The next morning, Kang-ho's mother noticed that his fingernails had grown long and was going to cut them, but he refused and changed the subject. Samsik was carrying his dog when it peed on him. His mother saw it and scolded him, saying he was hurting her son. But when he found out his mother was trying to find a wife for Kang-ho, he was very happy and brought over some rice wine to drink with Kang-ho. He kept making Kang-ho drink, even though the women they had asked to be Kang-ho's wife had all refused. While drunk, he was tricked by Samsik into giving him a gold mirror necklace. Meanwhile, Kang-ho's mother and the other women in the village were trying to find a wife for him. They were sitting at a cafe, each in their own corner, waiting for news. Finally, there was one girl who agreed. Suddenly, Kang-ho's mother got a call saying that Kang-ho was at the police station. She and the others rushed there. Samsik's mother ran over and punched her son repeatedly, yelling, "You little brat, why are you so stubborn?" Finally, Kang-ho arrived. The police showed Kang-ho's mother the jewelry, and she realized it was hers. But Kang-ho said he had given it to Samsik. Everyone was shocked. Kang-ho was very confused and couldn't understand why he had given the jewelry to Samsik. He said that Samsik was his fiancé, and then walked over to hug him. When they got home that night, she was frustrated with everything that had happened and scolded Kang-ho. He suddenly said he wanted to be a prosecutor, making her even angrier. He promised her that he would become the manager of the farm and be happy with his fiancé. But Kang-ho only wanted to be a prosecutor because that was what Mi-ju wanted. His mother then hit him a few times. He told her he was eating well, exercising regularly, and had even regained some mobility in his arms and legs. He was taking his medicine and going for acupuncture. He had been going through a lot and was exhausted. When his mother threw him in the water, he was terrified, but he endured it all because it made her happy. But now she wasn't letting him do what he wanted. She always made decisions for him. Later, she went to see Mi-ju. Knowing that Kang-ho was very fond of her, she asked her to talk to Kang-ho and convince him to get married. She was very sick and wanted Kang-ho to get married before she died. Back at her house, Mi-ju thought back to the past. The day Kang-ho left was the day she found out she was pregnant with his child, but she couldn't tell him because she wanted what was best for him. Then one day she saw Kang-ho with another girl and misunderstood the situation. She secretly took the two children and left them at Kang Ho's doorstep with a note for his mother to read. She felt guilty for everything that had happened. She told her mother everything. After her mother heard the story, she didn't want Kang Ho to know. The next morning, Mi-ju dressed up the children and took them to Kang Ho's house, but he was still asleep. Early in Sam-sik was woken up by his mother, who gave him a good scolding. He argued back with her, much to her distress, and she could only cry in despair. When he went out, he saw Mi-ju and her two children, but she ignored him. Kang Ho was still asleep, still angry at his mother. Mi-ju and her children arrived at Kang Ho's house. She tidied up their clothes and hair. Suddenly, Kang Ho's mother felt dizzy and fainted. Kang Ho woke up with a start and ran outside. At that moment, a girl named Hwang arrived to meet Kang Ho. Seeing him run out in shock, everyone rushed in to check on his mother and called for an ambulance. Fearing it wouldn't arrive in time, Mi-ju took the wheel and drove his mother to the hospital. They all waited outside the hospital. Mi-ju offered Kang Ho some water, but Hwang snatched it away and said suggestive things like Kang Ho's wife. Kang Ho found out about his mother's condition and was heartbroken. He went to wake her up. Mi-ju kept getting pushed away by Kang Ho as he told his mother that he would do as she said, that he wouldn't be a prosecutor and wouldn't like Mi-ju anymore. She stood nearby, heartbroken. Hwang, who had come for their date, felt uncomfortable and withdrew. She called someone saying, "You must have given me the wrong person." Mi-ju's mother was lamenting at home when her grandchildren came to tell her what had happened. They had searched the whole village for her. She then learned that Kang Ho's mother had fainted and that Mi-ju had taken her to the hospital. She immediately called everyone. Meanwhile, Kang Ho and Mi-ju were still at the hospital. Mi-ju brought him some rice rolls, but he wouldn't eat them because his mother had told him that anyone who ate rice rolls would die like his grandparents and father. As Mi-ju was comforting him, her mother arrived and suddenly punched her in the back, then made suggestive comments. Kang Ho took her to his mother's hospital room and saw her arguing with a nurse. Sam-sik took the designer handbag to sell, but it was scratched and he couldn't sell it. He was on the bus when he found a memory card and a DNA test report in the bag. Kang Ho and his mother had also returned home. She immediately called Hwang to apologize and asked to meet again, but she declined. After hanging up, Kang Ho's mother rushed off to do something. It turned out she went to see Mi-ju and blamed her for Hwang not marrying Jang Ho. She then vented her anger on Mi-ju. Mi-ju's mother heard it and came out to scold her. Sam-sik, out of curiosity, discovered that the strange items in the bag came from Kang Ho. He took them to Kang Ho to show him, but he seemed indifferent and only gave a perfunctory response. After Sam-sik went outside to make a phone call, Kang Ho noticed some computers and became curious. He opened them and saw a conversation between Oh Ta-soo and Song-ha. He didn't fully remember everything and was both confused and curious to know what it was all about. He then went to see his father and kept asking, "Who is my father?" After a while, his mother came out and sat beside him, telling him stories about his father. He was very emotional and cried like a child. It was getting dark. Kang Ho's mother went to find Mi-ju's mother to apologize. She knelt down and begged for forgiveness. She said she had felt sorry for Kang Ho, growing up without a father, and had acted selfishly. She didn't want him to feel empty, so she had treated him wrong. It wasn't until he was sick that she realized how wrong she had been in loving him. She hadn't changed at all. Mi-ju's mother was touched and forgave her, but said there was no need for her to kneel. They hugged each other. Kang Ho's mother kept saying that she was afraid she would die, and then there would be no one to take care of her son. She didn't know what to do. Mi-ju was crying in the house. The two men working for Chairman Song went to Kang Ho's house again. Suddenly, the villagers jumped out, cameras flashing. It seemed the two men had been tricked. The woman covered her face and said some suggestive things, making the two men very scared. On the way back to the city, they ran into Sam-sik. He asked for a ride to Congressman Oh Ta-soo's house. The driver slammed on the brakes in surprise. It turned out Sam-sik had been following Kang Ho. As they got closer to Ta-soo's house, his daughter, Ha-young, came out. She went on foot while he was in a wheelchair. He quickly ran in front of Ha-young's car and pretended to have been hit. She took him to a cafe and he showed her the DNA test results. She didn't understand what it meant or why he had given it to her. He then played her a recording. Someone in a hooded jacket was watching from afar. When she heard the recording, her expression became blank. Then she became angry and tore up the DNA test results. When she heard Kang Ho's name, she turned around. Samsik tried to blackmail her, but she threatened him back, making him terrified. She told him to meet her there again in an hour. As he was leaving, a black car pulled up and took him away. He was taken to a deserted place and brutally beaten by a group of men. One of them was about to kill him with a knife when a car came speeding towards them. It was two of Chaemin Song's men, armed with objects from the village. They fought back and beat the group badly, but the evidence was taken. They gave the recording to Oh Tae-soo. He smashed his laptop in anger. He went to see Ha-young. She now knew everything and found her father terrifying. He didn't care and threatened her because she had drugged Choi Kang-ho and killed him. He had orchestrated the whole thing. He manipulated her so she wouldn't reveal anything. The next day was Ha-young's wedding. The wedding ceremony was underway, but the bride disappeared. It turned out Ha-young had taken a taxi to Kang-ho's house. She was still wearing her wedding dress, but a car with a group of men took her away. Kang-ho was at home, getting ready to meet a girl, when he found a strange phone in his pocket. It turned out the person he was going on a date with was his mother. They were eating barbecue together. She had never eaten out with him, never seen a movie, sung karaoke, or gone on a trip with him before. She showed him a notebook where she had written down all the things she wanted to do with him. She then ordered another bottle of rice wine to drink. Meanwhile, Ha-young was being beaten by her father. He was so cruel and had no mercy for his wife or children. He was truly evil. He even had his daughter locked up in the hospital until the election was over. He went downstairs and smashed everything. It was getting dark and Kang-ho couldn't reach Samsik, so he was worried. He took his blankets and pillows to his mother's room to sleep and protect her. They lay in bed together and talked. She thanked him for going on a date with her. She was very happy. Kang-ho told his mother he would do everything she wanted. She asked him to sing to her. He was hesitant but eventually sang. In the middle of the night, Mi-ju was up taking care of her child, who had a fever. The little girl told her mother that she knew the truth about her father. She was a very understanding child. She looked at her and figured it out. She told her mother not to worry about them and to live her life. Her grandmother listened from outside and was heartbroken. Mi-ju hugged her child and cried. As she slept, Kang-ho's mother received a call saying that there was smoke coming from the farm. There must be something wrong. She called Kang-ho and they ran to the farm. As they arrived, flames were engulfing the farm. Kang-ho broke through a wall to get his mother out. As he came out, something fell on his head and he fainted. He suddenly saw an image of his father and remembered when he was almost in an accident. Oh-tu went to see Chaemin Song, looking furious. He was there because of Hwang Soo-hyun. He wanted to blame everything on Kang-ho, saying he was the father of the baby and that he would kill him first. He was so angry he kicked Chaemin Song to the ground. Meanwhile, Kang-ho and his mother were walking together and checking in at a hotel. While looking at the boats, Kang-ho suddenly remembered Hwang Soo-hyun. That night, as they were sleeping, they heard news of the farm fire and immediately rushed there. Samsik was outside, calling Kang-ho. He heard the news and followed them. Samsik's mother had a bad dream and woke up looking for her son. She suddenly heard two men whispering outside. She saw Samsik running past and followed him. Both his parents followed as well. They arrived at the farm to see it engulfed in flames. Samsik ran towards the fire and was knocked unconscious by two masked men. The village headman and his wife couldn't sleep either, so they went to Mi-ju's house. They'd also heard about the fire and rushed to the scene panicking. Seeing Kang-ho still inside, Mi-ju tried to rush in, but a hand pulled her back. Someone, drenched in water, heroically jumped into the fire. But when he came out, it was Kang-ho carrying him. Everyone was at the hospital. Two police officers arrived to investigate the fire. Samsik could identify the culprits and had seen the suspects, but Kang-ho's mother took the blame upon herself, refusing to let him testify. Mi-ju overheard this from a distance and pulled Samsik aside to question him. He was very nervous, but she saw the injuries on his body and his strange behavior. She pressed him until he told her everything. After learning what happened, she rushed to Kang-ho's hospital room and told Nurse Jin that they needed to call the police because they were trying to kill Kang-ho. Nurse Jin was shocked and ran out, closing the door, asking Mi-ju what was going on. Mi-ju didn't want Kang-ho to end up like his father, who had tried to clear up everything, so she didn't call the police. She went to a distant place where no one knew her. She blamed herself for putting so much pressure on him, forcing him to study so hard. Mi-ju explained that Kang-ho had been able to endure his loneliness and pain because of his mother. During his long rehabilitation, he kept singing "I'm So Happy," his mother's favorite song. He sang it when he woke up in the morning and when he went to bed at night. There were many pancake restaurants in the city. Mi-ju and Kang-ho had tried them all because he craved mung bean pancakes, but none of them tasted good to him. He decided to make them himself, but they didn't taste right. He was probably searching for the taste of his mother's mung bean pancakes. Kang-ho didn't resent his mother. He was always worried about her and missed her dearly. Kang-ho's mother finally realized that Mi-ju was the girl he had written about in his journal, the girl he loved with all his heart. That's why, even though he had lost his memory, he unconsciously searched for and loved Mi-ju. She hugged Mi-ju tightly. As they were apologizing to each other, Mi-ju told Kang-ho's mother that Wai-jin and Seo-jin were her grandchildren. She had found out she was pregnant after breaking up with Kang-ho. She had decided to give birth to them and didn't use the children to hold on to Kang-ho or ask to get back together with him, even though he didn't remember anything. But she only thought that he had abandoned her. Nurse Jin read Kang-ho's journal and understood why he had done it. She told Mi-ju everything. Now both women understood the situation. Kang-ho had woken up at some point, but no one knew when. Tears streamed down his face. The police arrived and told him he was under arrest for the suspected murder of Wang Soo-hyun. His mother and Mi-ju were stunned. They were at the police station. The police showed him photos taken at the beach on the island, showing the body of the girl who had been found on Jemian Island. She was wearing the same clothes and carrying the same handbag as the day she disappeared. They then showed him pictures of the girl and the baby, but he still didn't remember. He suddenly stood up and asked his mother to take him to eat. Then he saw an officer eating instant noodles and grabbed it from him. The officer yelled at Kang-ho, scaring him. He wanted to go home. Then he caused chaos in the police station's office. It was getting dark, so the police took Kang-ho and his mother home, warning them not to run away. Kang-ho held a picture and clumsily broke it. It seemed he had regained his memory but was pretending to be clueless. His mother said suggestive things to him and they hugged. Happy tears were likely shed as he remembered everything. He wanted to find a way to deal with everything, but she just wanted to escape to a distant place. That wasn't the solution. No matter where they went, the bad guys would find them. They say it takes 7 lies to cover up 1 lie. The next morning, before searching for evidence, he went to see his children. It turned out that the figure of Mi-ju that Kang-ho had seen pushing her children and walking with another man was actually him, and he had misunderstood. He was heartbroken and left in the pouring rain. Kang-ho approached his children and hugged them. He then went to Mi-ju's nail salon, the place where he loved her. He had to face her. Mi-ju scolded and hit Kang-ho, then cried like a child. He hugged her before going to find the evidence. That evening, Nurse Jin was cooking in the kitchen when the musician next door came over and gave her something. He apologized and thanked her. The musician was moving to the city the next day. Nurse Jin took him to meet everyone for a farewell party. Kang-ho's mother personally cooked a feast for the occasion. Everyone sang and ate together, having a lot of fun. Meanwhile, Chaemin-song was furious at not being able to catch his prey. He grabbed a club and beat his men. Kang-ho had arrived in Seoul. He took his car, which was still there. At Mi-ju's house, Kang-ho's mother was drunk and kissed Mi-ju on the cheek. She wanted to sleep there with her 2 grandchildren. Suddenly, Mi-ju's daughter showed her a video she had taken of Kang-ho bringing his fiancée home. When she filmed it, she was putting sleeping pills in Kang-ho's water bottle in the car. The next morning, Mi-ju showed it to Sam-sik. They decided to go to Hae-young's house, but she was gone. Kang-ho was looking for the fishmonger, but he had sold his shop to someone else the previous year. Suddenly, he received a call. It was a detective who knew Kang-ho. Kang-ho's mother woke up and threw up a lot, but she was still smiling. Sam-sik and Mi-ju were waiting outside Oh-ta-su's house. Mi-ju had met Hae-young before. She saw the maid come out and ran over, crying and begging. She learned a bit about Hae-young. They then went to a large hospital in the area. Kang-ho was still looking for someone named Cho Yong-jae in the vicinity.